This is the life, man. This is the life. All right, enough driving on my phone. Hey, what's going on, YouTube? We're gonna do take 2 here because I messed up on the first one. But a lot of you were asking last time I took the doors off, the process for taking the doors off. You guys were worried about how to remove the harnesses. Disconnecting that is probably the trickiest part. I'm gonna show you how to do it on the passenger side of the truck. It is the same process. The front is the same on the driver's side and the passenger, and the rear is the same on the passenger and the driver's side. So just by showing you this side of the truck, you can do the same thing on the other. Really quickly, we'll go over the tools you need. You really only need 3 things. Depending on preference, you either want a 10 mil socket with a ratchet, or you can just go ahead and grab your 10 mil wrench, whatever you want to use. If you've got a ratcheting wrench, more power to you. I'm going to use a socket with a 10 mil on it. So there are 5 bolts per door. Rear door, front door, they're 5 each. You're going to want to use this on the bolts that hold the door to the actual pillar. And then you're going to want to use some type of, I'm going to use a ratcheting screwdriver. It's just easier because the bolt that you want to, I'll show you on the doors themselves, but 1 bolt on each door secures that we'll call it like a hinge, but it's a controlled hinge. So it, when you open the door, it stops at certain increments. That controlled hinge, you're gonna want to use a screwdriver because there's not enough room to get a wrench on it, on that 10 mil. It's 10 mil, but there's just not enough room for a wrench. And you'll see when I go show you. So you got these 2, and then you're gonna want some type of body panel puller, body panel, whatever you want to call this. I'm sure there's a technical name to it, but I'm gonna call it a body panel puller. And you're gonna use this to disconnect the harness on all 4 doors. All right, so I am going to take you to the doors. I'm gonna show you really quickly which tool we're gonna use for what application. And then we'll take the passenger side doors off and you'll get to see that process. So I do recommend, there's a couple recommendations. Number 1, if you're doing this, I'm gonna do it alone because my wife is not home and I'm not gonna ask her to help anyways. She'd probably just tell me I'm dumb. No, I'm just kidding. She would actually help. But if you have if you got a buddy that you're willing to call up, these doors are not light, especially the front doors. I mean, you think Jeep, the Jeep door itself is, I don't know. I had a buddy in here yesterday with a Gladiator, and it's probably, all 4 doors are probably the size of our rear door, and even our rear door is definitely heavier than their doors. Anyways, yeah, you want 2 people. Number 2, if you're married and you have a metal ring, when I say metal, I mean any of the metallics, whatever you got, silver, gold, whatever. I highly recommend you take it off and you put a silicone ring on, because when you're holding the doors themselves, you don't want, you're holding it from the inside, right? Because let me show you, for example, if I were to take this door off, I'm going to unbolt everything, the hardware, and then I'm going to grab the door and hold it like this, and that ring is going to be on a painted surface. So if you want to avoid dinging up your paint, scratching it, whatever, I recommend switching over to silicone. I lost my silicone ring somewhere upstairs, so I'm not going to, but just for your paint's sake, watch out. Okay, without any further ado, I'm gonna switch cameras and I'm gonna take you to the door. Let's grab our 3 things. We're just gonna use the back door to start with. So if you take a look at the hardware that mounts to the door, first things first, never disconnect the bracket and the pillar. Never disconnect. Don't touch these bolts. Don't touch these bolts down here either. This is what controls the alignment on your door. If you disconnect these bolts and you take off the bracket from the pillar, now you have to worry about aligning your doors when you remount them. However, if you disconnect the pillar or the door from the bracket does not get adjusted, and the door can only get mounted one way, right? These bolts only go in one hole, right? So same thing on all 4 doors. Do not disconnect the bracket from the pillar. Disconnect the bracket and the door, okay? So that's number 1. Number 2, you've got 3 separate places that we're gonna be working on. You've got bracket on the top. You've got, well, I say bracket, but it's really a hinge. You've got a hinge on the top. You've got a hinge on the bottom. And then this is that controlled, we'll call it a hinge too, but once you take that off, your door opens and closes free will. There is no like stopped. Like, I don't know how else to say it other than watch this. You know, when you close it just a little and it stops and then it goes. When you disconnect that, it will no longer stop like that, right? It's going to just be free floating because it goes in here. And if you disconnect it here, this little arm just moves freely and it no longer holds. I will say caution, when you do disconnect this, because this arm moves freely, it can come in and hit the paint on the inside, and right kind of in front of where that bracket mounts, you can get a scratch. So I actually ended up scratching the front one the first time I took the door off. Let me show you real quick. So heads up, you'll see I disconnected the bolt. I did not think about, you know, keeping eyes on this bracket, and when I went to close the door, it shifted forward. It's just a small scratch. I mean, a quick pen on that and it'll go away. It'll buff, as they say. Okay, enough talking. Let's move over to the harness. Well, really quick. So that ratcheting screwdriver is for the adjusting arm, whatever you want to call it, the adjusting brace. I don't really know what you want to call it. It doesn't matter. Your socket or your wrench is going to be for the actual 10 mil bolts on the hinge bracket, right? So you got 4 of them. That's 1, 2, and then you move down 3, 4. And then finally, your body panel puller is going to disconnect the harness from the pillar and the harness, you know, cap, whatever, this rubber seal over here. So it's not too difficult. You're gonna see when I pop that seal open. Give me a quick sec. This is kind of hard to do with one hand filming. So let's expose what you see. All right, so you've got your rubber cap off, right? Now there's 2 more pieces to this. There's this black plastic cap. It's like a retaining cap before you can actually access the harness box itself, I guess. So to remove this, there's a latch to press on the top and there's a latch to press up on the bottom. The easiest way to do this is, you know, if you've got bigger fingers like me, just use your body panel puller, press down on it and then pull out and you'll see it'll come out. Let me try that again. Again, this is kind of difficult to do with just one hand. I'm gonna set the phone down really quick. Okay, bring it back up. So again, it's hard to do with one hand. It's almost easier with 2. If you get one to slightly pull the bracket forward, like outward, and then one to actually press down on that lever, it'll come out. And then you do have to do the same, not quite the same, but similar on the bottom. So again, I'm gonna set the phone down and repeat. And all right, so at this point, you've got your rubber cap off, you've got your plastic retainer off. You can see the little latch on the bottom. Now you're looking at the actual harness that plugs into your pillar. So to remove the harness, you see this purple retaining clip, pin, whatever. Not really a pin, it's more of a clip. This is gonna push forward. So you just insert and turn, and then it'll come down. And that exposes your actual harness box. Now all you have to do is just pull back and it'll disconnect. So if you just pull back, there you go. You've now exposed the harness, the male end of the harness, and then the female end stays in the truck. I recommend once you got the doors off, seal this with like electric tape or something if you want to keep the dust out of it, or you can, I mean, I'm sure you can find a solution, whatever you choose. But this is the harness that comes off with the door. All right, so the rear doors are identical with the harness process. The front is a little bit more complicated and it's a little tricky, okay? So we're gonna move from the harness to the actual bolts themselves. To tackle the bolts and that little control arm, I'm just gonna set the phone down. I'll loosen them all up until the last ugga dugga, and then I'll pick the phone back up and we'll continue recording. Just because it's got, I mean, I know you don't wanna sit there and watch me turn a ratchet for a minute, so give me a second. All right. At this point, we've got the bottom 2 loosened to the point where I can remove them by my fingers. We've got the upper loosened. The bottom one, again, I'm keeping slightly on because it's going to hold the door until I'm ready. Right, the last part is removing that, yep, that's all right, don't worry about that. We're gonna remove the bolt that holds that little sliding arm. Okay, it's almost out, and I'm gonna show you what I mean. All right, so you remove the bolt. We're gonna take a step back. Now this door is going to move freely. I'm not gonna move it too much because I don't wanna scratch it, but understand the point. If I were to shut it, it would not stop at intervals, right? It's just gonna go straight, and it's probably gonna scratch that, that B pillar. Okay, at this point, we're gonna remove bolt 1, bolt 3, and bolt 4. It's gonna be a little bit harder. I'm gonna set the phone down because I don't wanna drop the door. Okay, I moved the camera back over here because once we disconnect that 4th bolt, we're going to actually pick the door up and move it over to the turf. So I've got everything disconnected other than just that bottom bolt just there. Because the minute you disconnect that 4th bolt, this door's coming down. And then slowly move the door away, like so. Find a soft surface to set it down. Alrighty. Okay. So you got the door. Again, always try to find somewhere soft to set it down. Callie's busy sniffing it. She's probably smelling. I don't know. I don't have any other dogs in here, so never mind. Okay. You're still gonna have your brackets. You're gonna have the female end of the harness that you want to enclose so you don't get dust in there. Be very careful stuffing anything in here, right? Don't stuff like foam, weatherproofing, whatever, and then seal it because you might bend the pins that are inside. And if you bend the pins, then your window or your speakers might not work the way they're supposed to. So we're going to rinse and repeat with the front door, except of course, the harness on the front is a little bit different. So let's get in here. The harness is harder to reach where it mounts the or where it meets the A pillar, so we actually disconnect it from the door itself. Now the last time I did this, I modified the harness, so yours is going to look a little bit different, there's going to be a lot more plastic on the harness. I have removed a lot of it to make this more kind of plug and play, but the overall removal of it, when you look at yours, and yours is OEM, the harness itself mounts differently than the rear, but the process is very much the same. You're going to disconnect the top and the bottom of the plastic bracket. You'll remove the rubber cover. You will disconnect the top and the bottom, and then you will pull the harness out. Okay, so like I said, I've already modified my brackets, so this is kind of a mute point for you guys. Mine should slide out, but still be careful with the pins. Okay, so we're gonna just pull it out, and it should just pop out, just like that. And when you get yours, you'll see I removed the top and the bottom. No, this does not take away from the weather proofing of it, because at the end of the day, the area is still sealed with that orange, red, you can call it a gasket, you can call it a seal. So this just makes it a lot easier in the future if I want to remove the door. You know, just like in this example, I quite literally just popped it off. So much less hassle than the rear doors. And I've got both of the fronts configured like this, so I can just pop them out. So now we're gonna repeat the process. 2 bolts up top, 1 bolt in the middle, 2 bolts down below, and then we'll reconvene. I'll fast forward this so you don't have to watch it all. But this way, I'm not doing anything sneaky. You can see the door moving as I remove that control bracket or that control arm. So now the only thing left is that one, well, I left 2 of them up here. I'll remove both. Be ready to drop that ratchet. Recommendation: roll down your windows when you're doing this. It's going to give you more control and access to kind of hold your doors when you're doing this. But there you have it. You see, once you have the process down and you have the right tools, let me switch cameras. Let me backtrack. Once you get the process down and you have the right tools, this really only takes a couple, I mean, it really didn't take long at all. I'd say the longest part now is just disconnecting the harnesses. The front is a lot easier with a modified harness. Taking the bolts off themselves takes maybe 45 seconds, 60 seconds, I don't know. And then you just carry your door where you're gonna store it. That is not, that's not where I'm gonna store it. I would like to build some kind of door rack like you see for Jeeps on the wheels, like a door platform or whatever. But yeah, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna record the other side just because there's not as much space over there. I'm just gonna take them off really quick and then we'll go for a quick drive with the doors off. I might switch to 0.5 here. There she is in all her glory. And there are my two dogs, Callie and Odin. Callie, Odin. Callie's she loves people. He's a little shy, but wife rescued him from a shelter. So he a good boy. He has opened up. Look at him. Oh, meter. Yeah. Anyways, they hang out in the garage with me. Otherwise, they'll sit behind the door and whine. All right, guys, I'm gonna cut the video. I'm gonna go to the other side, take the other doors off. I will be back. All right, what is going on, guys? All 4 doors are off. I ended up having to open the garage door so I could take the other 2 around. Let me flip cameras here. And it got hot in here. I busted a sweat getting those damn doors inside the house because the wife gets home tomorrow and she's gonna need a parking spot. But here she is in all her glory. I'm gonna clear up everything. Don't lose the hardware, guys. You know, you might have like a bolt hanging. You might have a bolt hiding. Don't lose the hardware. And don't get them confused. The rear ones are painted black. You're gonna have 4 door bolts, and you're gonna have the 5th, which is at up here. I actually recommend putting that one back in. So I'm gonna go around putting them back in. Let's put it back in. Yeah, I'm not gonna bore you guys with this, but once you get them back in, the only other thing you got to do is tuck that front harness in. That's good enough. So let's throw this one back in here. You can see the Loctite on it. Nope. So the only other thing you want to do is secure the harness. So that when you're driving, so I'll tell you right now, this lower bracket, lower hinge is actually a comfortable spot to put your foot when you're driving. What you don't want to do is just constantly hit this harness with your foot. So I'm going to electric tape the male end, and then I'm going to swivel it underneath and tuck it behind. I'll get to that here in a second. Okay, so as you can see, I've covered all 5 sides of the harness, and then I'm going to turn it in and stuff it underneath. This way it is out of sight, out of mind, out of sight, whatever you want to call it. And you're not kicking it with your foot. So I'm gonna go do the same thing on the other side. Number 1, throw this back in. Sorry. That should be good enough for now. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing on this one. All right, and then we're gonna do the same process here. Just kind of be careful with the harness. Stuff it in there. So now it's out of the way. Now your passenger's not kicking it either. Last thing to do, go back here, secure this guy. And then that is it, folks. So what I need to do is clear out some of the other things. I've got some other hardware laying around in the truck. There's a bumper bolts back there. I got the camera, of course. I'll probably take this out for a quick shoot. I think that just about covers everything. Make sure that you guys find a safe spot to store those doors. And make sure that you're not doing anything stupid when you're driving, because, you know, you're going to attract attention. Cops are going to be looking at you. Don't give them a reason to pull you over. This isn't exactly legal because you've taken your mirrors off. Just don't be dumb. Again, I'm really only going to be driving to work and to the gym, and really avoiding anything crazy interstates. I might take this on the interstate to go to Peoria because my boy Austin's going to be hooking us up with some Nitto trail grapplers. That's right. I am not getting rid of these. They're right about 50,000 miles. You can see, matter of fact, let's swing around. Swing around. Take a look. I'm gonna compliment Nitto here. Brand new, 0 miles, 50,000 miles. Take a look at the difference. So I guess I'll do the finger test. Relatively clean index finger, it kind of looks like I already did it, but I promise you I didn't. So I'm gonna stick it in right in the center there. You see where that dirt line is? Now we're gonna bring it over, repeat. I'll move this out the way. So again, you see that dirt line? Now, I guess that's a massive fail, but yeah, we still have about half of the tread life, honestly. You know, 50,000 miles and they look like that. I am not complaining. Great job, Nitto. You guys have seen the truck. It's been East Coast, West Coast, Northern border, Southern border. This thing has gone everywhere. And these damn tires have done great. But it is time to move on from the RT over to the MT. I think the truck's going to look a little bit more aggressive. Unfortunately, we are not switching over to 40s. They will be 37 by 1250. There is a significantly long back order right now on 40s. And I just don't, you know, at the end of the day, I really don't want to do all that extra wear and tear on the suspension. We've got some parts coming in from CCE, Colorado Canyon Enthusiasts, upgrade control arms, some new boots because we tore some again. Yeah, guys, I'm gonna hang on. All right, swung over. I'm gonna clean the truck up. I'm probably gonna get out and take some shots. We'll post up on Instagram, and then I'll get the YouTube video dialed in. Probably, I don't know, I work tomorrow. I'll probably try to put the video together tonight. We'll see how things go. Ooh, the reason I told you that we're not getting rid of the Ridge grapplers is because I have a surprise for you guys. 5 boxes worth of surprises. Inside these boxes, yeah, apologies for the sweat, man. It was hot in here. Inside these boxes, we've got wheels. I'm not gonna show you the wheels, but you'll see them eventually. I will try to, I'll put them on right after we mount the trail grapplers because they're gonna get mounted at the same time with the Ridge grapplers. So you guys will get a chance to check those out and see how that looks on the truck. But as always, I appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you for sticking around. I'll stop covering my face. Alpha ZR2 on just about every social media. Yeah, stay tuned. I'll post a video up. And if you got any questions, concerns, comments, just leave a comment. I'll get back to you. Alrighty, guys. You know what? I came back in here. I'm gonna throw this at the front of the video, even though it's after the process. A lot of you were like, "Oh, have fun without speakers. Have fun with error codes on your dash and airbag deployed signs or whatever." Some of that stuff comes on when you're driving, sure, because your doors are off and it doesn't recognize that you don't have doors. But once you put doors back on, that stuff goes away, man. That's not like some of you guys got your panties twisted. And yes, the speakers work just fine. Yeah, we don't have our door speakers, but check it out. Look, ready? I'm not making this up. We're gonna start the thing. Give it a second. Matter of fact, obviously I'm not gonna connect to CarPlay, but look. Anyways, all of this is to prove the point that you still have sound. You've got the speakers on the dash, on the top of the dash, especially if you have the Bose sound system, and then you got the sub in the back. So and then you got tweeters. You're not like losing sound, man. It's not as good as it could be, you know. But I mean, golly, you're taking your doors off. What do you expect? But yeah, just want to throw that out there. Let's go for a drive. All right. got the camera. It might vibrate a little bit. Oh, here we're gonna have some kids tell me that this is legal. It's my favorite. Hang on. We got kids up front. No, you're fine, you're fine. Hey, how you doing, sir? All right, bunch of kids. They love yelling monster truck every time I drive by because they've never seen like lifted trucks like that. Camera's getting kind of shaky here. Hang on. Hey, there she is, guys. Doors off. Let me back up. Some of you might hate it. Some of you might love it. At the end of the day, God is great, and we're just out here living life. Do walk around. Don't lie to me. I know some of you would drive this. Talk smack, but you're down.